Welcome in to the latest episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast on the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. I'm your host, real_G Warner. I'm joined, as always, by @BigEastBen on Twitter. And here we are, 2 weeks post-wedding, trying to find you all some winners on the college basketball hardwood. Big East Ben, how does it feel with your newfound monogamy?
I am red hot, hitting at a 70% clip. I wish I started this monogamy way earlier.
So does your wife. And so we'll move on to a 5-pack of games plus best bets, which you should take directly to the counter. I think we were both pretty good on our last episode. I think both of us over 500. And unfortunately, I feel like I missed out on a winner because I picked my best bet being Florida from our, I guess, list of games. That was an easy one.
And
Unfortunately,
I took Colorado
yeah,
as my best bet,
yep.
who got absolutely smoked. Have a few thoughts on that fan base. I knew the game was over when Colorado was down, I think only 6 points with 8 minutes left in the first half, and fans started chanting, "We want Penny." Um, So I question the intelligence of the entire fan base and will not be betting a Colorado home game for the rest
Well,
of the.
the nice part is they were probably super high anyway. But what I mean, Penny's gonna leave his hometown college team to go high in the Rockies to Colorado for a new conference that's basically filled with teams that no one really wants. Is that what he's gonna do? That's their thought process. I didn't know if you spoke to any high-ranking officials there in that fan base that might have been able to tell you those whatever rowdy roughhousers or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I think the thinking is he's the most Deion Sanders adjacent coach in college basketball. Probably him and Jerry Stackhouse.
Okay.
Uh,
How's
I don't
that one
want any
going?
of those guys.
How's that Jerry
Yeah,
Stackhouse thing going?
I don't think it's going to be going for much longer. So
Well, unfortunately for his Taylor, they're going to somehow be out of business. So we're quoting lines courtesy of Bet Online. We're recording a little bit later tonight as we're not going off of the openers at DraftKings, which probably is better. Lines have settled. So we'll probably be a lot closer to, I guess, where we would have expected way back when. But we'll start. So lines quoted courtesy of Bet Online. I got podcast description. If you go into that on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube, you can find some links to go deposit, get some free money from the casinos, 50% match for first-time bonus at Bet Online, 100% at their sister site, Sportsbetting.ag. So go check that one out. You can get 500 free dollars. For me, I would think you'd want to do that. Ben, do you like 500 free dollars? Doesn't that seem of value to you?
I've never turned down $500 free in my life.
Yes, I know that's true. Also, we're going to potentially be bringing on a new sponsor to this podcast called Shot Quality, shotqualitybets.com. Go check out. It's a really good data resource, and more to come on that one. A promo code coming up later in the podcast. But we'll start in the Big East for @BigEastBen. And I guess we're not going to start where I thought we were going to start. We'll bury the lead till the end. So we'll start with Creighton visiting Butler. We got Butler a 2.5-point underdog, a very similar number to the, I guess, 3.5 it was to Marquette this midweek. What do you got in that?
Yeah, I thought Butler played really well in that game against Marquette. They kind of weathered the storm and made it a tight game down the stretch there. That Biz Jack guy, curly headed. I don't know if he's white.
I think he's white.
Is he white? Straight white?
I mean, I haven't checked his 23andMe, but that would be my guess. He was in with a first name like Harley or Henry or Harsley or whatever it was. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that guy was unbelievable in the second half. Um, Look here, Butler's kind of like sitting right on the bubble here, 47th in KenPom. I haven't checked the latest bracketology, but they kind of need this one and their quality win to get under their belt. Creighton played really well at Xavier, which I thought they would. Um, they did play Georgetown on Tuesday, so playing a high school JV team to prep you up for this game. I don't know if it's the best. the atmosphere at Hinkle Fieldhouse was awesome on Tuesday night. I think they bring it again on Saturday. I like the Bulldogs here plus 2.5.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to resist, especially after I played them at home against Marquette. And I believe a certain someone who's also on this podcast called me a dumb mofo for backing Butler, which to me, a 2-point game late, really late. Yes, there were some comebacks involved, but a nice, very nicely timed banked in three from the top of the key. Couldn't miss it by any more than he did, and it went in by one of the Joneses. Cam Jones, is that who made it?
Yeah, Sean Jones tore his
Sean
ACL.
Jones. Sorry.
No, Sean Jones tore his ACL 3 weeks ago.
Sean Jones not making shots for
It was
Marquette right
Cam
now.
Jones. Yeah.
Cam Jones. Thank you. You gave me a little bit of I need to go check the roster moment. But we'll move now to the Big Ten, where Wisconsin is looking like a 1-point underdog on the road at Iowa. And let's just say, ever since Ben attended a Wisconsin Marquette game, Wisconsin was really just fooling everyone, looking like a really great team. They've been going straight downhill for a while now. Do we think that the Badgers and good old Scotty can pull it back together and potentially get back on the winning side? Because unfortunately, there's not a lot of room here with only a 1-point underdog on the road.
I do. That 4-game losing streak, again, it started off as like understandable, losing at Nebraska. They shouldn't have lost that game. They were up 19 in the first half, I think. And then losing to Purdue at home, nothing to be ashamed of. But then you go to Michigan, you go to Rutgers, you lose. Rutgers teams that's down this year. I think they righted the ship a bit with the win over Ohio State, which I believe was Chris Holtman's last game, or was that post-firing?
Well, he's not coaching anymore. I know that.
Yeah. That was pre-Holtman, so that they killed Chris Holtman.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Greg Gard, silent assassin.
yeah. Listen, Iowa has been nothing special this year, especially from their MO 3-point shooting. They're kind of like middle of the pack in Division I there. Wisconsin has the bigs inside. I'm blanking on his name. It's Stephen
Crowell.
What is it? Powell?
Crowell. Yes.
Crowell. Stephen Crowell.
With an L,
Stephen
yeah.
Crowell inside who can shut down Ben Krikke. Wisconsin needs to make some momentum here to get a top 4 seed, which I think they had proven in the non-conference and Big Ten play they were worthy of. And I think they take this one in Iowa City.
Wow. So what makes you so, I guess, so much of a believer in Wisconsin, having turned their ship around after 4 straight losses with a home win, which probably didn't cover the spread against an Ohio State team with Deadman Walk-in as their head coach?
Yeah, I just think it's important for a team to just, right the ship and the streak, see the ball go through the basket. AJ Storr had a really good game in that one. I mean, this team is just, their starting lineup is too talented between Wall, Klesmit, Storr. I'm still not sold on Chucky Hepburn, but he's all right. And is McCaffrey back for Iowa?
It seemed like it. At least I know his dad was on the sideline because I saw his post-game interview, and he refused to answer why Maryland was able to stop Peyton Sanford in the second half. He said, "If I answer that, I'll get fined." And I think he was trying to say that they were fouling the shit out of his best player, and it wasn't getting called after he torched them in the first half. But yeah, looking at the box score, and I did watch that game a little bit on this off to the side, but McCaffrey played 18 minutes. Not a great O rating, but I think that's probably something you'd expect from the McCaffrey family. I'm going to take Iowa at home. I'll lay the 1. Probably not surprising to anybody. Moving next to the Big 12 with Kansas visiting Oklahoma. It looks like KU is a 1-point underdog, and they've got a very interesting little case here, considering I don't really know what reports to trust in this world on college basketball injuries, but we've seen what I guess was a no-show at Texas Tech. Seemed like they were pretty into it. DeJuan Harris played despite being pretty banged up, according to most reports. I don't even know why they risked him, especially as long as they did, considering such a lopsided score. I guess this is a good chance to potentially right that ship, because that's what Ben is into, as opposed to driving further into the iceberg. I'm worried about McCullough with bone bruise. missing a game to try to get healthy for Houston. Got a big win at home at the Fog, and then has been up and down, let's just say, since then. Close win against Baylor, but what do we think about Kansas potentially righting their ship as it heads towards an iceberg on the road in Norman, Oklahoma?
So allegedly, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, allegedly the KU training staff cleared McCullough to play at Texas Tech. And his camp decided to keep him out of that one,
Ah,
which
ah,
probably isn't great for team chemistry. But he is, I mean, he's the best player on the team. He's better than Dickinson. He's the most important player. Um, I think you're catching Kansas because of those down games at a really good value here. Neither you or I have been really blown away by Oklahoma. They kind of have just a lot of slightly above average guys.
it's
You know,
very complimentary of you.
The Norman crowd, we talk again, it's going to be a big game. It is Kansas, but the Norman crowd it's not a huge home court advantage. I think Kansas again really needs to get going and start to stack it up big 12 wins here. I don't think they go 0-6 in true road games to start off big 12 play. I think they get this one over the Sooners.
I'll take the home team. I'm a pretty big believer that this Kansas team is flawed. Very interesting. I'm glad you always have the inside scoop on college basketball, despite how many games I watch. It feels. I'm glad you found that out. I just remember watching Kevin McCullough tilting his head, going each way when they were chanting, "We want Kevin." I don't know if that was maybe him forever being a Texas Tech Red Raider or having a tattoo of it or somewhere on his body. But it's a little bit interesting to me that if he was cleared by the team doctors and he decided not to play, but it didn't
Might
work
have a
out too
little
well. Go.
might have a little Ben Simmons in him.
Oh, well, he's got to wait till he gets that contract first, though. I'm sure the NIL money was pretty good at Kansas, even though I think he probably went there before NIL began. We'll move next to Kentucky visiting Auburn. What a performance by Auburn this weekend. I'll pull out shot quality right now. So I bet South Carolina on the road at Auburn this past weekend. Or midweek, didn't seem so bad to me. Shot quality, I guess, is the time to judge their data, whether it's good or not. But they had Auburn winning that game 75-71. Instead, Auburn won by 40. I believe it was 101-61. Thought a lot behind some miraculous three-point shooting night, 12 of 20 from three. Let's just say in my write-up, I didn't have Auburn making 60% of their threes when they've shot, I think, 33% for most of the season. So that was a tough loss and definitely made me feel really great about backing the visitors who attended both of these arenas at Kentucky with Ole Miss on Tuesday. I think followed up on Valentine's Day on Wednesday for another in the long line of just awful, disgusting performances by yours truly on Valentine's Day. We have Auburn a 7.5-point favorite. What do we think about Bruce Pearl? I mean, it's a pretty big game for Auburn at home. Actually, we have all the way up to 8.5 right now live. So as that number creeps higher, does that get you a little bit more interested in backing Coach Cal?
Nope. Auburn's going to kill them. The Kentucky freshmen are going to crap their pants immediately upon stepping into that arena. That place is a firestorm. It is a volcano. I think it's the second best home court advantage behind Texas Tech. It's insane.
Whoa, behind Texas Tech, you said.
Yes.
Out of like underrated home courts, or are we just forgetting about the Fog or Cameron Indoor right now? Okay, silence is not good for podcasts because people they think the stream stopped.
No, all right. If you give me a 3-year sample size, I think those two are number one.
Okay. Well, I'm not disputing that they're great home courts. I love the idea, especially for an unheralded home court of all, because everyone knows about the Fog. Duke has been basically laying 8 more points than they should at home for a very, very long time. but when the refs are in your pocket, it also helps, and you cover those spread with late free throws. I've unfortunately been on the wrong end of that a lot of times if it even been close enough. Just very wild to say that Lubbock, Texas is the crown jewel of home court advantages in college basketball, but you heard it
Got
here
Ken
first
Palm.
from Matt Big East Ben and
Got
uh,
Ken
and
Palm.
and a crazy weatherman from Salt Lake City as well. Great. We'll move to the last game on the list, and this is one that I think should have some interest across definitely this podcast, potentially also from maybe all of the world, potentially. We have the Marquette University Golden Eagles, formerly Warriors, but Golden Eagles. They are on the road at UConn, and we currently have, because I think this number is actually a little different than one you just sent over to me. We have it actually down to 6.5 right now. So I saw it open at 8 at Bet Online. Certainly, you could argue that those are relatively small price openers, but I think you get $500 down at open. So if that is not a sizable wager for you and you're betting 10 grand a game, then I guess maybe it isn't as legitimate as I'm considering it to be. But opened 8, fell to 7, and now we're down to 6.5. What do we think about? I'll let everyone that's maybe listening to us for the first time as we gear up for March Madness and conference tournament season and winning more money in the last few weeks of the season. Big East Ben, his family went to Marquette. He did not himself, so he's not as biased as the people playing fight songs in the driveway or on the car ride from the wedding venue to the rehearsal lunch of some sort. So I'll put that out there. But Big East Ben, looks like you're wearing a D Wade jersey, if I had to guess today. He
I
is.
am. Can I first say that is rather humorous that our Auburn Kentucky analysis boiled down to an argument over home court advantages. Who do you like in that game?
Oh, thank you for not letting me get past it. I'll lay this. I'll lay the 8.5 with Auburn. I think Kentucky's bad.
I do too. They're really bad.
There we go.
Um,
Great radio right there. Awesome. Okay. Kentucky's bad. I take Auburn. You take Auburn. Let's move to Marquette, getting 6.5 on the road at UConn.
so looking at the starting lineups,
Mm.
Newton versus Kolek, probably a wash. I think Kolek's been playing an unbelievable rate better, but if you look at over the course of the season, probably a wash there at the point guard slot. You then move the center, totally different styles. You had Oso, probably the most skilled, what do you call it? Like Barishnikov, like he's like a dancer. The passing, the footwork, the hook shots, he's perfect. And you got Klingon, the matcher, banger, will probably get him foul trouble. That's probably a wash. This is going to come down to Cam Jones versus Cam Spencer. And it's going to come down to David Joplin versus Alex Caravan, the snipers on the outside. In Marquette's first game, Marquette's game at the XL Center last year, I think they were down by 20 points about 10 minutes into the game. Jordan Hawkins just couldn't miss. People say Cam Spencer is the reincarnation of Jordan Hawkins. I don't think that's true. He's been red hot. I think he's shooting 45% from 3, but I think that's going to come down a bit. It's going to be a crazy environment. I just think these teams are too evenly matched. Marquette took 2 out of 3 last year from UConn. I am biased, but ring out Ahoya. I'm going to take the 7.5, 6. I got 7.5. It's at 6.5. I'll take that.
Ring out Ahoya, MU rah rah, MU rah rah, MU rah rah, rah 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 rah, or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because most of my fight songs actually have lyrics and words instead of just chants. Uh-oh, Ben's standing up. Oh, we are Marquette flag. There it is. Nice. We are Marquette. I'm gonna go with UConn. I'll lay the 6.5. I think that I just prefer spellings of Cameron with a C rather than a K. But a little bit more than that. I think that Marquette's going to go in, and as you mentioned, it's probably going to come down to either if Oso Ighodaro, their really athletic Bolitnikov dancer, as I think you described, is that what you said? Kafelnikov? What, how
I
did you
said
describe him?
Barishnikov, but
Barishnikov. I don't know.
Belindakov's the wide receiver award in college football.
Yeah, I guess he was a ballerina too at one point, but I do feel like there is some potential value there, and maybe Oso Ighodaro can just. I would imagine you probably would correct me if I'm wrong, but you imagine that Marquette's just going to pick and roll UConn to death. Is that right?
Yeah, and per your friends at Shot Quality,
Yes.
great article, in depth read on the game. That's kind of the one uh, flaw in the UConn front is the defending the pick and roll.
And so, I mean, to me, the pick and roll is the hardest thing to defend in all of basketball, besides the referees when they're against you and playing for the home team when you're on the road. That to me is a concern for Marquette. I don't think Shaka Smart's really the type to really get in the referees' faces or anything like that. Certainly, he'll get a technical if he needs to, like most coaches. But my concern is that it's going to be a 5 versus 8 essentially here, and that the home whistle is going to potentially skew this game a little bit. Looking back to Marquette last year, a 15-point loss on the road at UConn. What do you remember from that matchup besides UConn making 12 out of 23 threes? Hard to really hang in any game when that happens.
I watched the first 10 minutes. They made like their first 8 3-pointers. I was watching the game on delay and I fast forwarded through the rest of it.
All right. Well, that sounds like an emotional decision, but that's what happens in this world, I guess. I wish I would have done that myself with South Carolina, but I when I lose bets, I force myself to watch the whole thing so I can
Oh,
try to
that
avoid losing them in the future. Hmm?
story about that game.
Yeah.
I had the South Carolina team over 62.5 points.
Oh,
They
nice.
scored their 60th point with 4 minutes and 58 seconds left and ended with 61.
Yeah, it seemed like Lamont Paris was going to the backups at some point. I don't want to get too distracted from this game because I just feel like this is going to be a huge one. What do we think? Because I think we have a little bit of time. What do we think about how this game will impact how these two teams go the rest of the season? Is it just a one-off and UConn's going to essentially cement their Big East crown if they do win this, or if Marquette takes it, then all of a sudden we've got a race? Or do you still feel like this is a UConn? I mean, you are Big East Ben, so I'm sure you have some thoughts on the Big East regular season championship.
Yeah, I mean Marquette's going to have to sweep them probably to have a chance if UConn takes this one hard for the regular season crowns over. I think Marquette, as of right now, only has a 8% chance of capturing a share of the title.
And does a share matter too much? I mean, we're really playing for the NCAA tournament anyway. I mean, I guess for better seeding in the Big East tournament, but it kind of feels like Creighton. I mean, barring a huge comeback, it was a three-headed monster before we came into the season, at least in terms of odds, about in the same plus 250 to 230, 260, something like that. And it feels like it's become a two-horse race, but UConn they don't seem to lose, which is problematic considering Marquette dropped two in a row and three of their first five, two road games and that awkward home loss to Butler.
That's ancient history. This team has been rolling. Just seeing the style of offense. I mean, something was wrong with the team. They were not passing the ball. They were forcing bad shots. I don't know if it was getting used to playing without Chase Ross. He's back. He's been playing great since coming back from a shoulder injury. I think he's shooting like 60% from three. But the juice is back. The magic is back. I mean, Kolek's playing. I think Kolek's going to win Big East player, especially. I mean, if he keeps this clip, which at 27 points per game over his last five, if he comes anywhere near to keeping up with that clip, he's going to win Big East Player of the Year again.
Yeah, he seems like the guy that they also give the ball at the end of games, of course, is the point guard to make those free throws at the end, and he doesn't miss.
88%.
Man, I wish my GPA was that high. Anyway, so I guess that we'll run down through the list of the games we picked just so everyone has it before we get to best bets. Creighton at Butler getting 2.5 points.
We're both on Butler.
Wisconsin, a 1-point underdog at Iowa.
I'm on whiskey. You're on Iowa.
Kansas at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, 1-point underdog.
I'm on Kansas. You're on Oklahoma.
There we go. Kentucky, an 8.5 point underdog on the road at Auburn.
War Eagle, both of us.
And last but not least, Marquette, a 6.5 point underdog at UConn.
You like the doggies.
Fair point. I was working on an Instagram reel for 2 hours of my dead dog, unfortunately, today. So
Question.
yeah,
Question. Oh, I'm
sure.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. RIP to
Puck with a P for all the censorers out there. Yeah, it was his 12th. It would have been his 12th birthday today, but damn cancer gets you. Go ahead. What's your question?
I know you're not deep in the college basketball Twitter as I am, but did you see the video of the Butler Bulldog playing with the Yukon Husky puppy?
Uh-oh. No, I did not.
It's very adorable. You should check it out.
Oh, very adorable. Oh, I was thinking like you might have ripped him to shreds or something like that. Because that's what Bevo almost did to
Oh,
Uga
yeah.
way back when in the Sugar
Yeah,
Bowl.
well,
And it was a really nice description of what ended up happening in that Sugar Bowl. So maybe you need your mascots to go after the others. So before we get the best bets, we already mentioned promo codes in all the descriptions to get some free money at the casino websites. If you're not at BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag, follow those links. It's worth it. If you're not on my Patreon yet, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write ups, everything for soccer, basketball, every sport that's going on. Because I don't sleep, I just bet at this point. And mentioning our shot quality partners as well, shotqualitybets.com. Use the promo code GW, you get 10% off their first month subscription. And you might as well get into it because we are about to run down the stretch. We come down the stretch. They come, I think, is probably the horse racing call towards March Madness, the NCAA tournament. So we'll start with at Big East Ben with his best bet for this episode on Friday, the February 16th.
yeah, I'm gonna go with the Horned Frogs, visiting the Octagon of Doom in Manhattan, Kansas, against the Wildcats. It is a 11 a.m. tip in Kansas, so I think that might have a subdued effect on the crowd. Also, I don't think the fans get up for TCU as much as they get up to say Kansas. Computer metrics here really favor TCU. Kansas 351st in the country in turning the ball over a 21% clip. TCU defense forcing them at a over 21% clip, good for 26th in the country. Also have a huge advantage on the offensive glass, 24th in the country in offensive rebounding versus 252nd for Kansas State. The Horned Frogs have already proved their mettle kind of on the road. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Baylor. They should have beat Kansas. The Octagon of Doom, I don't think is, as
It's not as much as of a place of doom as it has been in the past.
it's not as doomy as years past. They've dropped a
Yes,
couple at home there.
doomy.
Yeah, I like the purple team here with the
They're
frog.
two purple teams. You
With
can't
the
do
frog
that.
mascot.
He likes the frogs. Do you know why they have red in their uniform? Just a quiz question for you.
Yeah, because they can squirt blood from their eyes.
Yeah, terrifying, especially if Eddie Lampkin was doing it. But he has since transferred to Colorado. So this
He looked really out of gas in that game up in Boulder last Saturday.
maybe if he decided to eat a little bit less. I don't know. It's amazing to me he hasn't worked that off playing at altitude for as long as he has this season. But um, yeah, hello.
It's so big. He looked like he could snap Ballo in half.
I mean, there's a thing though where if you're not super tall, as weird as it sounds, there's always some like random team. Like I think Abilene Christian has a really like wide-bodied player, or maybe that's Stephen F. Austin. I always get those two confused. There does seem to be a girth advantage if you're not 7 foot tall like everyone else out there. You use that big body. We got DJ Burns lighting it up for NC State, though I'm not sure they're going to make the tournament this year in a down ACC in general. So. Do you have anything else before you'd like me or do you want to interrupt the video? I'm about to start again because I just had to cut that first one.
I'm good.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see within the next minute if you decide to have some other change of heart. So for you, okay, I can't even start now. Okay, here we go. You just heard at Big East Ben give you the TCU Horned Frogs, a 2-point underdog on the road at Kansas State for the Need for Seeds podcast best bet portion. I'm the real underscore G Warner. And for my best bet, I'm going to stay in that similar time window. I'm going to go with the Virginia Cavaliers, a 3-point favorite at home to Wake Forest. Wake Forest, unfortunately, great start to the season. Still looking for, I think, their first quad one victory. Haven't found it yet. Going on a tough road trip to a very tough defense, and I think Wake Forest really survives on shooting the three. They do have a little bit more difference in an offensive attack that should be a little bit more capable. But Virginia is looking a little bit better defensively. I feel like they've caused or really halted their problems on defending the interior. So take Virginia -3 and TCU +2 as the best bets from at BD Spin and at the real underscore G Warner on this episode of the Need for Seeds podcast. And do you have any parting words for the people before we sign off and get these uploaded across the various streaming sites?
Virginia lost to Pitt by double digits on
Yes.
Tuesday.
Barry Hinson had, or not Barry Hinson. I think that was Southern Illinois basketball coach. Blake Hinson, I believe, had a really nice 3-point shooting night. And if you think that Kansas is going to bounce back on the road at Oklahoma, I feel much more comfortable about Virginia bouncing back at home in front of all the eggs in Charlottesville.
Another question for you before we wrap up.
Sure.
Who do you think's getting the Ohio State job?
Dusty May.
Dusty May. Really?
How about you? Same question.
I want Scooney Penn to get it.
Oh, interesting. What about John Diebler?
If he goes on a run, I mean, he could get like a Coach O type thing. You never know.
Scooney Penn. All right. Well, that'll, that's what people tune in for the Need for Seeds podcast on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network, because they're looking for some speculation on who's going to get hired at the end of the season for a team that's probably not going to the NCAA tournament, NIT, CBI, or anything. But they are paying a buyout, I think about $13 million to Chris Holtman. So that must be nice. I'd love to get paid $13 million not to work. So that'll do it for this episode of the Need for Seeds podcast. If you are listening or watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. For on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. Choose for the search rankings, and keep an eye out for the reels and or shorts, plus also the beautiful PowerPoint image that Ben's putting up in Photoshop every week to summarize our picks. Hopefully we go over 500 again. I think we were 7-2 on last week's episode, so let's try to keep that going.
Let's go Marquette.
Let's go Marquette. Except, well, I'm hoping if they cover, they win outright. So we'll see. Best of luck to all of you, and we'll talk to you all next week.